Of course, his critics question whether that would remain the fact if things actually moved that direction, or whether the dynamics then could change and he could actually try to ascend the throne nonetheless.
Yeah, lots of options there. Thank you very much, our Iran analyst, Teresa Tropper there. And now let me give you a quick recap of this breaking news story. Israel and the US have launched a series of coordinated attacks on Iran. President Donald Trump says Operation Epic Fury is aimed at annihilating the regime's defenses. State media are showing destruction in the capital, Tehran. Witnesses have reported smoke rising near the offices of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's not been seen in public for days. That's it for the moment from us. You're watching DW News. Our continued coverage of that breaking news story will continue in just a few moments. For now, thanks for watching.
Corruption is everywhere you turn in many African countries. What is the impact of corruption? Why is it so widespread? And how can it be combated?
The 77% in 30 minutes.
It's not just about dining, it's a part of life. From the early hours until late. From classic favorites to fine dining. From downtime to upbeat. Brasseries, the pulse of France.
Euromax in 90 minutes. Whispers of the earth.
We have to listen carefully. Listen to the stories the rocks are.
Their fury shapes entire continents. They form the bedrock of our existence. They bear our burden and the weight of our greed. It's time to hear the stories of the stones. How our planet came to be. Whispers of the Earth starts March 13th on DW.
This is DW News live from Berlin. Israel and the United States launched coordinated attacks on Iran. The Pentagon calls it Operation Epic Fury. State media show images of destruction in the capital, Tehran, and witnesses report smoke rising near the offices of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iranian missiles also target U.S. military bases in retaliation. Blasts are heard in several Gulf states, which host American service personnel. Air raid sirens sound across Israel as the government declares a nationwide state of emergency. I'm Gerhard Elfers. Welcome to our special coverage. Israel and the US have launched a series of coordinated attacks on Iran. President Donald Trump says Operation Epic Fury is aimed at annihilating the regime's defenses. State media are showing destruction in the capital, Tehran. Witnesses have reported smoke rising near the offices of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's not been seen in public for days. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has launched a wave of drones and missiles targeting Israel and US bases in the region. Blasts have been heard in the United Arab Emirates, in Jordan, Bahrain, and in Kuwait, where tens of thousands of US troops are stationed. Let's have a closer look now how these events unfolded.
Iranian state TV airs footage of what it says is the aftermath of US-Israeli strikes in Tehran. Smoke has been seen rising across the Iranian capital, with many videos appearing on social media. Witnesses report hearing explosions. Footage of a military jet has also been circulating. US President Donald Trump confirmed the strikes.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime.
Sirens have been blaring across Israel as the country warns its citizens to prepare for retaliatory attacks. Israel says its defense system has already intercepted missiles launched from Iran. Israel's Prime Minister was quick to justify why the country took action.
Challenging days await us. Every military action involves risk. But the risk of not acting is much greater, because if we do not act, we will get a nuclear Iran, an Iran with tens of thousands of ballistic missiles, an Iran that will work to destroy us and will be immune to our countermeasures. As a people who want to live, we have no choice but to act.
These images from Bahrain have appeared on social media. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has confirmed it's targeted the US Fifth Fleet, which is based in the Gulf state. Sirens have been sounded in Kuwait, home to another US Army base. Smoke has also been seen in the skies above Doha in Qatar. Meanwhile, airlines across the world have cancelled flights. Airspace over much of the Middle East is empty as fears grow of a wider conflict.
Fawaz Gerges is a professor of international relations at the London School of Economics. He joins us now from London. Now, Trump has urged the people of Iran to take their government back once the strikes are over. Do you think they'll be receptive to that message, or are they likely to rally around the flag?
Well, good morning. Good afternoon. I think it's too early. No one knows, what will happen in Iran and the region in the next few days and next few months. But if you ask me as a historian, if history is a lesson, the Iranian people rally around the flag when their country is under attack. My fear is that President Trump's call for the Iranian people to rise up against the government, this is mainly could be suicidal for tens of thousands of Iranians, because the Iranian government still has a significant popular base of support. This is a call for civil strife. So even though we have to wait and see, I doubt it very much whether we're going to see millions of Iranians heading the call of either President Trump or Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
So do you think this is a recipe for civil war in Iran, rather?
Well, I think, again, we have to wait and see. The situation is in fluid. It's too early. It's the beginning of a long war. My take on it, and I could be wrong, the Iranian leadership is deeply entrenched. They have had time to plan and to coordinate their actions. And I think they're planning for a long war. It will be a long war. And I think the consequences for both the Iranian people and the region will be catastrophic for a variety of reasons. But at this particular moment, there is no clarity and there's a great deal of dust. And we are blinded by the dust. Two things we know for sure: that this is a coordinated war between Israel and the United States. And I think the overarching strategic aim of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is regime change in Iran. Do I really believe that Donald Trump could basically bring about, topple the Iranian government? No. I think it's wishful thinking. We have been there before. We have seen this show in the Middle East many times in the past 70 years or so.
So you don't think that Trump's goal of destabilizing the government, at least, and sort of trying to push the opposition, that is realistic?
Well, look, do I believe that the American-Israeli attacks on Iran will devastate Iran? Absolutely. I think what Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are trying to do is to basically kill as many top leaders in Iran as possible, is to destroy the military and security and strategic infrastructure of Iran, is to wipe out any kind of really strategic weapons in Iran, and they could do so. But do I really believe that Donald Trump could bring about the Iranian government by air power? No, I don't. I don't think there is any military expert or historian who believes that air power on its own could bring about regime change, in particular in Iran. This Iranian government, the Islamic Republic, is deeply entrenched. It has a major popular support, even though millions of Iranians would like to bring about change in Iran, and we've seen the protesters. So, yeah, I think President Trump not only aim is unrealistic, I think it's wishful thinking. But the reality is, regardless of what we think of the Islamic Republic and its repressive nature, this is an illegal, unjust, and illegitimate war. It's a war of choice. And if you tell me as a historian to really summarize what we have seen, whether in June of last year or this year, I think we are seeing naked power as the dominant currency of politics and diplomacy. International institutions have been shattered to a million pieces.
Now, what kind of actions do you expect Iran to take now if they find themselves under continued waves of attack?
Well, look, I mean, I think Iran has very limited choices. Iran's skies are almost open. Its air defenses are non-existent. And that's why I believe that the American-Israeli attacks will be devastating to Iran. So Iran will try to prolong the war. Iran will play for time. Iran will basically realize this is a long game. And this is really the overarching strategic aim for Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu is regime change in Tehran. The overarching aim of the Iranian regime is basically resilience, is resistance, is to basically absorb the first and the second and the third shocks and basically continue to resist, even though what we have seen so far is a minimalist response on the part of the Iranian governments, because I think they are positioning themselves for a long, long war, as President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu have made it very clear.
Last question, briefly, please. So you're saying that the strategy of the US and Israel is doomed to fail?
Absolutely. President Trump has made it very clear. His strategy is regime change. He has called on the Iranian people to basically revolt against government, and he has made it very clear he will try to wipe out the infrastructure, the security and the strategic infrastructure, and kill the security and the top leadership of Iran.
Thank you very much. Farwas Gerges there, Professor of International Relations at the London School of Economics. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have more expertise here right in the studio. Our Middle East analyst, Shani Razanis, is joining us. Shani, we have the US joining Israel and taking on a major foe of Israel. Let's look at the Israeli side here. What is Israel's strategy?
Well, Netanyahu has a clear strategy. It's his goal since his first day in politics. He wants to get rid of the Iranian regime. That's something that he's been talking about again and again and again.
Ambitious, though.
Very ambitious. I think he had never expected in his wildest dream he'll get such cooperations from an American regime. Trump is the perfect partner for that. We also need to keep in mind when we're talking about a regime change, toppling their regime, Israeli media has been throwing very big hints on the fact that the Israeli defense officials believe that they had managed to hit Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran themselves. Israeli media was working under the assumption that this assassination attempt has been at least somewhat successful. And they're trying to explain also the timing of the attack, as we've seen it together, in the sense of a very rare militarily operational window, when intelligence forces have realized that there's a big gathering of a lot of high-ranking Iranian politicians and military commanders, and this is why the timing was chosen as it was chosen today. We, of course, have no confirmations for it whatsoever. We do have an Iranian source talking to the Reuters news agency and approving that the defense minister has been hit, and as well as the high commander of the Revolutionary Guards. So somewhat of a success definitely there in Israel and America targeting the high-ranking levels of Iranian leadership.
Let's talk about this joint operation. How did they divide the work? Do we know that?
Yeah, well, a lot of intelligence. There's a very tight collaboration between Israel and the U.S. when it comes to security needs, when it comes to military exchange. CIA and the Mossad are working in Iran. There's a lot of covert operations we are not fully aware of, but there's no doubt Israel has shown it already when it managed to kill the leader of Hamas in the heart of the Tehran capital, in the heart of the Revolutionary Guards, resort in July of 24, showing its great superiority when it comes to intelligence on the ground in the capital of Iran. So Israel is the one, when we talk about the division of labor, who's doing what, the Israelis are dealing more with the personal attack on the leadership, trying to find the targets, the timing, their location,
so
following them.
Correct.
And somewhat also focusing on the ballistic missiles. And for the Americans, the main goal seemed to have been the nuclear facilities. It's also technically, of course, it's strategically meeting Trump's goals and statements, but it's also for technical reasons the need to get a bunker blasting bombs and the kind of airplanes you need for these strikes. This is something the Americans have and the Israelis are far more limited with. So this is what we know so far. So we still need to keep in mind this has been going on for a few good hours, but we're still, there's a lot of speculation. There's still a lot of dust up in the air. We still don't have the clear photo, but it's interesting to see that this is very clearly what the Israelis are saying. Their goal is to topple the regime, to get directly to the Iranian supreme leader. And we have to understand, in case this will be confirmed, this is, of course, major. This is an unbelievable change. It leaves so many, it opens so many questions into the future of Iran and what's happening next. I think both leaders, if you look now with this information, again, retrospectively, at what Netanyahu and Trump both saying, both turning to the Iranian people, telling them, this is your opportunity, this is your chance. I think they were counting on real, tangible possibility for a change based on the fact that the leadership of Iran might have been targeted and hit successfully today.
So if we're talking about the average Israeli citizen, how big is the support for this whole operation?
Well, I think, the mood fluctuates with the news as they come in. Of course, if there'll be a confirmation, if there's a success, there's great support for Israel there. The Iranian threat is something that has been looming over the Israelis for many years. And of course, Netanyahu supporters are aware of this threat, which has been a very major pillar of his defense strategy for many years. At the same time, also, it seems there's a lot of content in Israel for the quite timid Iranian response and for the success of the Israeli defense mechanism defense systems to actually intercept most of the barrage, most of the attack on Israel. So as long as this keeps going on, I think Netanyahu is going to get only support from wall to wall. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of comments and response we will get from the U.S. as the day there begins and people, are waking up. Capitol Hill is waking up. D.C. is waking up. We know there's been very little support for this operation beforehand. It's interesting to see what will be the responses today.
Now, let's talk about the Palestinian reaction to all this in the West Bank and in Gaza. Have you heard anything?
Well, we need to keep in mind, Israeli civilian front, as they call it, is quite well used to this and also well equipped. Many Israelis have shelter and safe spaces to go into. And there's a whole procedure of what you do once you hear the sirens. This is not the case for Palestinians in the West Bank, definitely not for Palestinians in Gaza. And we have seen miscalculation. It's very hard, the distance that the Iranian missiles need to cross in order to make it to that region. There's also been interceptions that had fallen in the parts of the Palestinian territories. There's great danger, there's great panic, there's great fear there. That's on the civilian, most immediate response of the Palestinians. But if you see it in the bigger, like more from the political side, I think, you know, there's still great support for Hamas among Palestinians, definitely in the West Bank. And the Iranians would be very happy to see this attack triggering any sort of response, any sort of violent response from the Palestinians in the West Bank. And this is something Israelis are taking into account. Israel had a special recruit of soldiers, of reserve soldiers spread all over Israel, in the north waiting for Hezbollah, but also along the West Bank waiting to see if there might be tensions flaring up there or in occupied Jerusalem.
Our Middle East analyst Shani Razan is there. Thank you, as ever. And blasts have been reported across the Gulf as Iran launches retaliatory strikes. Attacks have targeted the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan and Kuwait. Air raid sirens have also sounded as missile defenses spring into action. Iran has always threatened to hit US bases in the region if Washington launched an attack on its territory. And let's have a look into that region. DW correspondent Emily Gordine joins me now from Dubai. Emily, what's the atmosphere like in Dubai? Did people get any warnings about these latest explosions?
Well, people are mostly trying to go about their day as normal, but that's also partly due to the fact that they don't really have much of a choice. Shelters are not really part of the local infrastructure here. In Abu Dhabi, we are told some people did get alerts on their phones to seek shelter or to at least stay inside, that is. In Dubai, when we earlier heard about explosions above the city, we did not receive any notifications on our phones. Of course, Dubai in general is considered one, if not the safest city in the world. And that's also one of the reasons for why tourists have continued to flock here despite possible conflict in the region. Now, tourists, when they leave the hotel, if they are, in the right moment, they will have seen explosions where rockets have been intercepted in the air. And so the image of Dubai certainly right now is getting a bit of a dent in terms of its, exemption of conflict and in the sense of that it is such a safe city.
Now, how have the Emirates responded to these latest attacks?
Well, the Emirati Foreign Ministry condemned the strikes. It called it a flagrant violation of national sovereignty and a clear breach of international law. The Emirates have also, they've closed the airspace, so there's no flights coming in and out of Dubai, out of anywhere in the United Arab Emirates. And again, we know that, in some places there have been alerts like in Abu Dhabi of recommending people stay indoors. But by and large, people have responded by going about their day as normal.
Now, Iran has retaliated against several Gulf states. Can you explain why?
That's right. Iran has retaliated, targeting Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait and Bahrain. And all of these countries are home to US military bases. So Bahrain, for example, hosts the US Fifth Fleet, and they've reported strikes at that naval base as well. Qatar has also reported strikes targeting the Al Udeid air base. And there's, I think, a plethora of reasons for why the Gulf states are hit here. I think, for one, they are close and they're in easy reach for the Iranians. Two, the Iranians are to a degree up against the wall, and that leaves a lot less for them to lose. And these countries are allies of the Americans. And I think the rationale here is if you turn up the heat on these allies, then they will eventually put pressure on the Americans to wind down their operations. And observers there have also said that one of the goals here can also be attacks on, well, of course, we understand that these strikes so far have been mostly limited to military bases, the US military bases, but the rationale there is to target specifically American soldiers to increase the political cost, the political pressure on Donald Trump himself. And that's why observers certainly believe that in the next few days we will continue to see more strikes on the Gulf states, on US air bases in the Gulf states.
DW correspondent Emily Gordine there reporting from Dubai. Thank you, Emily. The Israeli military has said they will pursue the operation as long as required. They also described the targets they attacked.
A short time ago, dozens of Air Force fighter jets completed the opening strike. This included attacking numerous targets belonging to the terror regime. Among them were military infrastructure, ground-to-ground forces and command and control targets.
And our correspondent Mariel Müller is in Jerusalem, and she told us more about the Israeli army's statements on its attacks on Iran.
Well, the Israeli Defense Forces said it had struck around hundreds of military targets across Iran. And what's interesting now, we've just seen Israeli media reporting that the timing of the attack, which was interesting because most people were probably expecting a nighttime attack, but this happened in the morning hours. And apparently there was prior intelligence, according to these media reports, that leading Iranian figures would be gathering in various locations across Iran. And that was the reason for the timing this morning. But yeah, the IDF said it had, and it emphasized in a press briefing today that it only attacked military targets. And this comes as now we've seen reports of Iranian state media saying that there was a girls' primary school that was apparently hit and 40 people killed. Again, this is Iranian state media saying this. Yeah, and the IDF official that we spoke with in the press briefing earlier today, he said that he wouldn't confirm whether or not they had targeted Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He only said that they were targeting leading figures who planned to destroy Israel. That was his words. So now Israel has begun to a large-scale reinforcement of its ground troops, of its air defense, of its special forces, of its navy, and also has begun to reinforce its troops along its borders with Lebanon and Syria.
Talking about Israeli defense measures, we understand there were incoming missiles in Jerusalem earlier, where you are. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, exactly. Just a few minutes ago, there was another air raid alert, and this has been going on like this since morning. Just right now, the focus seems to be more on the north of Israel. So there are ongoing alerts, and we've seen a high-rise building near the city of Haifa that was struck. Apparently, only damages to the building. No casualties reported so far. And we've just gotten the news that Israel's energy sector has begun shifting into emergency mode. So apparently refinery operations have now been scaled back. And also some of its natural gas infrastructure was temporarily halted. So this is also a concern. Of course, Israel doesn't want its energy infrastructure to be hit. This also happened during the 12-day war in June last year. And 3 people were killed in an attack on a power plant. So this is obviously something that Israel wants to prevent by scaling back its operations in this field. And yeah, so what we've seen, just minor injuries, people in Israel trying to get to the shelters as quickly as possible and even injuring themselves in the process, just light injuries. But this tells you about the sense of heightened anxiety and panic that people here feel and experience right now.
Now let's look across the border into Lebanon, one of Israel's neighbors and, of course, home to Hezbollah, widely considered Iran a proxy force. How have they responded to these attacks?
Well, so far this remains one of the biggest concerns. That remains to be seen if there'll be any retaliation from Hezbollah in Lebanon. So far, we've seen reports that a base in Iraq that is run by the Kataib Hezbollah, which is an Iranian ally, also a militant group, that was hit apparently by a drone strike. An official of this group said that 3 people have been killed there. So now in Israel, of course, the biggest concern is that this group could retaliate from Iraq, and other groups, Hezbollah, could retaliate from Lebanon. And this is what Israel is now preparing by its reinforcements. Israel has, in the past few weeks and days, ramped up its attacks on Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, saying that it was targeting weapons depots, training grounds of the Radwan force, which is one of the special forces or units in Hezbollah. So this is definitely something that Israel has been, it seems, trying to prevent by attacking preemptively. And so, yeah, it remains to be seen if Hezbollah will strike or not.
Marielle Miller there, DW's international correspondent. Thank you, Marielle. Now let's have a quick recap and bring you up to speed with what we know so far. The US and Israel have launched a series of coordinated strikes on Iran, which the Pentagon is calling Operation Epic Fury. US President Donald Trump says major combat operations aim to annihilate Iran's naval sites and has vowed that the regime will never have a nuclear weapon. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has retaliated by launching drones and missiles against Israel and US bases in the region. Blasts have been heard in the United Arab Emirates, in Jordan, Bahrain, Kuwait and Qatar. And that's it from me and the news team for now. We'll continue our coverage, our special coverage of this story at the top of the hour. In the meantime, you can find a lot more news, background and analysis on our website. That's dw.com. And do follow us on social media. We're on X, YouTube and on Instagram. Our handle is @DW News. I'm Gerhard Elfers in Berlin. From me and the whole news team here. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
Corruption is everywhere you turn in many African countries. What is the impact of corruption? Why is it so widespread? And how can it be combated?
The 77%. Next.
It's not just about dining, it's a part of life. From the early hours until late. From classic favorites to fine dining. From downtime to upbeat. Brasseries, the pulse of France.
Euromax. In 60 minutes. The untold story. An eye for detail. A different point of view. Find it here. Reporter, every weekend on DW.
What if the biggest thief in the room isn't hiding? Yep, they're right with us, talk with us, and sometimes even dine with us.
We are talking about corruption, so sit tight because in the next 26 minutes, we promise you that this isn't just your usual corruption banter. The solution to this menace is something you have been doing. So Fatu, every time we talk about corruption, it's always, problem. And, sometimes in Kenya, when I was growing up in school, we always talked about toa kitu kidogo, which is a Swahili term. Do you know what this means?
I don't know. Tell me about it.
So it means give something small, especially when it comes to the police. Police extortion is a very big thing in Kenya. For example, there's times when there's roads in Africa or even in Kenya that are very, very notorious that have people and police there who want bribes.
Yeah.
And this is completely frustrating, especially to Kenyans themselves.
I mean, when you talk about police corruption, it is the most obvious because it is right there. You can see it. And when you are gauging where corruption is mostly prevalent, it's usually with the police.
Absolutely.
In the police sector, there is a huge problem. Whether you are the one in the passenger seat, whether you are the one in the driving seat, it is there because they are not even hiding it, which is why I think we should even take a look at what we have here because we have proof of this in this DRC video. Just take a look at this.